Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Kennedy. How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Yes, good, thanks. How's it going in Cameroon?
It's all right. You've got an audience ready for you.
Fantastic. Hi, everybody. Hi. So do I need to share my screen? I can share my screen if that,
Yes,
yeah?
yes. Yeah. If
Okay.
you're able to, you can go for it.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for having me at the State of the Map in Cameroon. I'm joining you from Cambridge in the UK today, and it's really cold. So I'm very envious of you all sitting there in t-shirts and stuff. Okay, so let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
Sure. We'll go. Yep.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yep. We're good.
Okay, fantastic. Let me just get into slideshow mode. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So hi everyone, welcome and thank you for having me today. So I'm here representing the Eastern and Southern Africa Open Mapping Hub, which is, I'm sure many of you know, a kind of subsidiary of HOT, Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the open mapping grants that we launched last year. So essentially, since then, we've had a little bit of a change in kind of strategy, and we're really looking forward into the next 5 years with an open mind around how we are going to do our granting and articulate our granting models in the future. Now, this is important that I mention our mission and vision and how everything kind of fits together, because we're really excited to start moving forward on our new strategy and start really kind of carefully thinking about how we're doing our granting in the future. So the vision of the mission of the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team is we envisage a world in which community needs are addressed through mapping. Everyone can access and contribute to the map, and open data is available and used for impact. Now, the Eastern Southern Africa Open Mapping Hub fits into this in lots of different ways, but it's our kind of nested strategy that sits within the mission and vision of HOT is that we advocate for and actively facilitate the creation, utilization, and widespread dissemination of high quality open map data in disaster preparedness, climate resilience, and sustainable cities. So my name is Sophie Mower. I am the Senior Manager for Strategic Engagement and Growth at the Eastern and Southern Africa Open Mapping Hub. I've been with HOT for about 4 years now and have been running their granting models right from kind of 2020 all the way through to now. So if at any point you'd like to reach out and talk to me about different types of granting models in the open source community, I'd be really happy to talk to you about it. We've tried loads and loads of different methodologies over the past few years. So yeah, really happy to explore those with you independently if you'd like to reach out. So today I'm going to talk about the granting models and how it fits into our programs. So we have a program at the Eastern and Southern Africa hub called Growing People and Growing Places and People, and the aim of that program is to increase map coverage, increase map contributions, and connect people to places. So this is a new program, but what's exciting about it is that the open mapping grants absolutely fit in to this into this program's aims and objectives. So through this program is a vibrant, engaged network of dedicated volunteers more high quality data contributed to the map, and better map coverage to inform decision making. And you can see here on this slide that there's several different ways in which we do that, with granting being one of them. But just to touch on some of the other things that we do within this program, we've got mapping for large-scale climatic events. We've got the Spatial People Network, which I'm sure some of you have heard of. We've got climate campaigns, and we've got active corporate engagement. So those are the different projects that fit within the Growing Places and People program at the Hub. So we do quite a lot of granting at the Hub. We tend to give grants to mission-aligned partners to do two cool things. So the first thing is to facilitate map growth. So we do funds for events, and you can see through the Spatial People Network, if you haven't checked it out, go and check it out for sure. You'll see that there are some funds, around $200 small scale funding for small scale events for people to host mapathons, and to essentially kind of expand the reach, expand the kind of the volunteer base through events to kind of engage and inspire people. And then the second way in which we do granting is to demonstrate how open source tools and workflows can positively influence change for local communities. So for this one, this is funds for projects predominantly, and we have several programs that sit within that. We've got the Beyond the Map Fund, we've got the Open Mapping Grants, which is what I'm going to talk about today, and we've got Spatial Solutions, which is a program that is coming soon. So keep your eyes and ears open for that one. Oh, some reason my slides haven't updated. Sorry for that. So let me tell you a little bit about the Open Mapping Grants. So these were grants for projects that contribute to innovative map data solutions and projects that improve the everyday lives of people in a significant way. The Open Mapping Grants were 9 to 12 months. We had an RFP, so a big call for proposals for people that are then kind of apply as and when they wanted to. We provided between $30,000 and $42,000 for our partners. We looked at 3 different impact areas, and in a total we gave 8 grants. We did granting in Kenya, Malawi, Uganda, and Namibia. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we learned through the program. So if you're interested in what any of the activities were that individuals and groups did through the Open Mapping Grants, you can go directly to HOT's homepage, and you can see what they got up to there. But what I'm going to do is share a little bit about the granting itself, because this was a new kind of unfounded territory really for HOT in granting that amount of money. $30,000 is a lot of money, and we did come out with some quite kind of significant lessons learned. So I'm just going to talk through those lessons learned, and of course, if at any point you have any questions on these lessons learned, please feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand. So first of all, one of the components of the program was to have what we called a kind of mentorship structure, where members of the Open Mapping Hub would actively mentor the recipients of the grants to be able to effectively roll out and implement the project. Now, this wasn't about project management. It was about building up rapport, building up relationships, and getting into a place where the recipient felt really supported and actively engaged in more of a kind of co-creative capacity. So that was the intention. We did quite a bit of training around what it meant to be a mentor, how we could mentor these groups, what it meant to go to the places where the work was being implemented, and co-create and integrate and work in a way that was very collaborative. But what we found was that we were kind of trying to balance a little bit the difference between what it meant to get the project targets like across the line versus this kind of you know, nurturing environment. And it was quite difficult to do both of these things. So that was one of the first things that we really kind of needed to think about in our future granting models at HOT, was that kind of understanding of how support is offered and whether or not our the way in which we were interacting with the grant recipients was the right thing, not only for the project, but also for the recipient of the grant. So getting that balance right was quite a challenge. So that was one thing that, that we needed to think about quite considerably. The second lesson learned was mission aligned partners. So connecting missions to our own mission for collaborative success. So what that meant for us was that many of the organizations that we were working with were looking for the same thing that we were looking for, but the way in which they were doing it was different. And again, this was a really interesting kind of way of targeting our sorry, my just plugging in my computer. This was quite, this was interesting for us to target the right organizations to work with, because we wanted to work with people that were going to be collaborative. We wanted to work with people that shared our vision, that were able to kind of move into a space of really integrating open map systems into their existing workflows. But sometimes those there was a little bit of a tension between how we were bringing in those mission aligned partners and who we were going to work with versus the people that genuinely wanted to integrate open data workflows. So again, that was a really strong lesson learned for us from the granting program. The other thing that we learned was the most impactful grant value. So what we found was happening was that as we increased the opportunity for or the value of the fund, that meant that some things started getting really expensive, like mapathons, which we know that we can do mapathons in quite a kind of budgeted on a little bit of a shoestring, whereas with the increase in grant, we found a lot of people were applying for projects that were just an increase in cost of mapathons. So that was a really interesting learning curve for us, because it meant that we needed to really think about point 2 here, which was how we connect to mission aligned partners and how we get the most value out of our grants, making sure that, again, our targets were hit. So we're not just looking for expansion of contributions, but we're also looking for that integrated open data workflows into existing projects, into existing systems, to make the operations of the organization stronger. So again, that was an interesting learning. The other thing was attribution. We found a lot of the time that work wasn't getting recognized or seen on kind of a regional or national or even local platform. It was quite internally facing, with the same kind of stakeholders looking inwards at the activities. So this was quite an interesting learning for us. We started thinking about how we mandate attribution to work so that we really are recognized and seen, and that the open source community and certainly the OpenStreetMap community have really got that that their work is seen and visible and inclusive and equitable. So that was another learning. And then the final one was co-creation. So this was about making sure that we were balancing bureaucracy, which we all know, working with some of the kind of bigger impact partners is quite difficult to kind of manage the difference between bureaucracy and creativity. So where can we be innovative? How can we be innovative? What does innovation even mean in these settings? So this was an interesting learning for us as well. The program strengths. So the program had lots and lots of positive outputs as well. So those were, yeah, all of the things that we learned, but the real strengths of the program kind of shone through as the projects came to a finale. So I think all of them are finished now. I think there might be one or two that's outstanding, but all of the projects that we granted are were really strong, and the outputs were incredible. And again, you can head over to the HOT website to see the impact of some of those projects. But the strengths of the program, first of all, was a proposal development clinic. We worked quite hard on making sure that we were communicating our expectations on what we were expecting from the grantees. And this worked really well. It meant that people could increase their own skills in terms of learning how to write a really strong proposal. So hopefully those skills can be transferred and used for future proposals. So that was a really good strength of the program. We also had really clear target-based milestones. So we first did a lot of kind of human-centered design and design thinking activities as a hub to really understand the change that we wanted to see based on the administration of the grant. So we had really clear target-based milestones. We knew that we wanted to see integrated open data systems into existing work streams, and it really paid off having those very clear milestones. The other strength was in-person fieldwork. So the hub staff went out to all of the project field locations and offered hands-on project support in person, which was a real asset to the project. So I would recommend anyone rolling out a grant, make sure that you put in some budget for in-person fieldwork, because it's a really important component of making sure that you're building up that relationship with grantees, but also that the grantee feels supported and that they're able to roll out their project in a way that is really kind of supported in a holistic way. The other strength was an inclusive and equitable review process. Again, sorry, my slide hasn't updated. So this was about having a really strong triage. So we looked at all of the project proposals that came in. We had a really strong triage where we looked at what was kind of doable. We of course had to do quite a stringent due diligence check, and then as we moved forward with the review process, we then brought subject matter experts in from a range of different fields of expertise, from a range of different of backgrounds, locations, so that we could have a very inclusive and equitable review process. It worked really well. I think in total we had about 16 reviewers, which was great. And then that meant that we could co-create with the grantees any areas that we thought needed to be kind of strengthened through the advice that had been provided by the review process. So that was a really strong asset of the program. And then finally, map advancement and data use. So in all of the projects, we hit what we wanted to achieve. We had an increase in map edits, an increase in map contributions, and an increase of open mapping knowledge and using of OSM data. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to me talk about the open mapping grants and the successes and some of the lessons learned. I'm not sure, Kennedy, maybe you can tell us how much time we have left, but I think we've got a few moments for questions. So if anyone has any questions about the programme, please feel free to ask them.
Yeah, so we have 10 minutes of questions or anything that you might have felt that maybe you missed out. That would be a great opportunity to do that. So to both parties, those that are joining online and those that are in physical, please go ahead and it's your time now to ask those questions that you constructed. Over to Tim. But I'm sure they should be able to refer to the live stream that was done on YouTube, and they should be able to send a few questions. I'm sure still digesting a lot of the amazing information that you provided. Yeah, maybe there's something that you might have left out that you want to say before maybe we close the session.
No, I don't think so. I think yeah, I think actually maybe I can talk a little bit about future granting programs at ESA. Yeah, so can I get a show of hands in the room? Who has heard of the Spatial People Network? Put your hands up. Yeah, great. I can't hear you, Kennedy.
There's another one this side that you can't see because of the camera, the way it's faced, but we had, is it 2 or 3 hands up?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have a good number of our friends from Cameroon, so yeah. I think it's yeah, the regions and all, but it's okay, it's all good. There's another hand here. There's a question. Yeah. So you can go ahead.
My question is open mapping hub, whether not West and North or East and South Africa. Is it an organization or is a sub under HOT?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry?
Yeah, is it an organization on its own or is a sub-organization under HOT?
Yeah, so HOT is the organization, and the open mapping hubs are the regional localized groups or kind of hubs that do sit underneath. So the open mapping hub is part of HOT. We're funded by them, but the open mapping hubs themselves are like independent places where we can really contextualize and make sure that we're rooting activities in the realities of the people living in those regions. So that's why we have the hub, really for localization, to strengthen decision making locally. And so we are part of HOT, but we are an independent body, locally registered. In Kenya, the Eastern Southern Africa Open Mapping Hub is registered in Kenya. The Open Mapping Hub Western Northern Africa in Dakar, Senegal.
Any other question or contribution? But the good part is we know that now they've heard about most of the works of Spatial People Network. So I was expecting to see everyone's hand up because they had.
We need to do more work, Kennedy. We need to do more work.
Hi, Sophia. Thanks for the great presentation. I'm wondering, like, you presented behalf of Open Mapping Hub, Eastern and Southern Africa. Is there like other program provided by other open mapping hubs? Maybe because there are like people from other part of Africa. If you can also mention if there are any other programs in different regions, including like Africa as well as maybe Asia Pacific.
Yeah, so I work with the Eastern Southern Africa Open Mapping Hub, so I'm not fully aware of the other activities that are happening across Western Northern Africa or Asia Pacific or Latin America and the Caribbean, which is where our other open mapping hubs are. I know that there was some community grants going out from Western Northern Africa for community-based organizations, and the incentive for that grant was to strengthen local OpenStreetMap communities to kind of advance map contributions and facilitate change based on open data. I'm not sure what their plans are going forward. But if you're interested, I'm sure I can find out. But yeah, I've been with the Open Mapping Hub for since July, so haven't had much kind of touch points with any of the other organizations, any of the other Open Mapping Hubs, and what areas they're granting in.
Sounds like they're really operating locally based on region. So, your answer really covered all the topic of presentation. Yeah, great. Thank you so much again for the presentation.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone in the room. And I think, Kennedy, is that time?
Yeah, I think we can end here. Thank you so much for having us, Sophie.
Thank you
for
having me, and again, yes, thank you, and see you all soon. Enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.
Hi, Kenneth. Can you see? Thanks. Hello. Hello, Kennedy. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're audible. You can carry on.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and apologies for the inconveniences. My name is Eric Tamba Mnyali, and I am joining with Janet. She's in person in Cameroon. I'm currently based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And so I want to share about a global project which was done under Meteorologic WMO and partnership, and an initiative called Global Integrated Flood and Drought Management. And this was specifically for youth-led projects. And I had a chance to receive this funding for this project, which is currently ongoing. And in this project is organized by Youth Mappers and GOT Tanzania, and get support from Open Knowledge Foundation, Sokoine University of Agriculture, and also the local government at Ifakara and Morogoro Municipal. So the challenge that is addressed in this is that there is insufficient disaster response in the study area that we are focused in. And this is attributed to outdated maps and inadequate data. And this deficiency extends to crucial components of early warning system. So from COP27 last year, we had Dr. Stanley from WMO saying we need to move from early warnings to early action. And this project is one of addressing that step. So again, this is a picture taken by one of our village executive officer where we are implementing this project. And you can see globally that 23% of global population are at flood risk, and most are affected the most. But also this flood comes with different kinds. You can see a top right picture, the civilians who killed a lion who was brought by the overflow of a river crossing, one of the study area that we're working on. So these challenges, so the drivers actually mainly in this study area are solid waste pollution, rainfall, but also you can see from the terrain, I mentioned earlier that there's a river crossing in Ifakala Town Council, which is one of our study area. And yeah, of the terrain, because of the terrain, these challenges, when we have this binomial rainfall, it results to overflow of the river and, affects some residents in those areas. So in this project, we have accomplished several milestones. And as I mentioned, this is an ongoing project. And since July to September, we had remote mapping and field data collection. And also we are doing data cleaning and analysis and also creating maps. But as a sustainable procedure in this project is one to do stakeholder engagement and, project upscaling, where we partner with different kind of communities in, mapping flood risk mapped areas in the country. This is one of the programs that is carried on by Jyoti Tanzania and supported by Youth Mappers. So yeah, this just summarizes on the steps that were undertaken in this project, where we did community data gathering, workshops and dissemination. And again, in these areas, especially in the community data gathering, we actually engage more the local communities, as I've heard entirely in this conference, that we should include the local communities in this kind of activities because they know their places better and they understand their challenges better than, someone coming just to, implement a certain project in that community. So yeah, so far, I think in the project, during the remote mapping, we had a great, output in terms of contribution, in terms of OSM buildings, footprints, and load data that helped us to, outline flood evacuation routes and safe areas during those challenges. So we also had 6% of field data gathered, and from the map you can tell on the experience of individuals in terms of flood. So yeah, so far we have a great output which we'll be sharing with the local government in January next year. And it's a base map that tells on, the flood risk areas at Ifakala, but we are currently developing a web map that, would interact with stakeholders and the community better. And yeah, so again, I would mention this as one of the important attributes in our project in engaging local communities, local government, CSOs and NGOs, and also youth from different institutions. And again, I would applaud, the involvement of youth mappers in this project, entire in the Morogoro region, as well as for remote mapping task, we engage the youth mappers community here in Tanzania with almost 22 chapters in different institutions. So yeah, again, like many other open mapping communities, we at Jyoti Tanzania face a lot of challenges, especially lack of long-term funding to sustainably support volunteerism in putting vulnerable communities. And this adds to what we call problem-based learning. So we want to, funds that, we contribute data, but again, make sense of that data in terms of coming with different innovative solutions towards those challenges. So again, it's not just, hosting mapathons, adding buildings, but again, using, the data contributed to, come up with better solutions for different challenges in the community. So again, this is just a call to action, and your support is a cornerstone to our collaborative mapping and impact. Your partnership fuels innovation, empowers communities, and saves lives. So you can stand with us, fund the change, and be the driving force behind safer and more resilient world. Together we map the world. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for that short and quick presentation. I think there's a room of questions again, and I would love to connect in person virtually, and you could connect with Janet and Desiree, who are currently at the start of the map, Cameroon, to move around or navigate through this project if you're interested, and we're looking forward for more collaborations. So yeah, we have a short video that you could watch on our YouTube channel as GOT, which describes the summary of the project currently until this stage. So you would find it on YouTube. I think we won't have time to play that here, but again, it's available on YouTube, on GOT Tanzania YouTube channel. Feel free to go and watch and connect with us from there. So this is supposed to be Janet, by the way, holding her hand saying thank you, but I'm happy to share this presentation from this side. Thank you so much. If there's any question, I would love to receive them.
Any questions from people who are joining up with us physically? Okay.
What do we mean by resource? I saw the presentation.
Yes.
In the map, you don't. In the when do you intend by people?
I can't get you. Can you just
What do you intend by resource?
Okay. I don't get you.
I'm just asking like what does he intend by resource?
Risk roads, right? Yeah. Okay, we have mapped maybe we have created the risk roads, like we used a network analysis method to map these roads, the shorter routes toward the evacuation zones, and the roads that will not be used that will not be passable during the during the flood seasons. So that's why we produced that map. That map shows the shorter route to the safe zones, shows the risk loads that cannot be passable during the flood events, and it shows the roads that can be passable during those during the seasons. That's all.
Yeah. Can I just chip in there if you guys are hearing me correctly?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, Eric.
Thanks. Yes, I was not sure like you guys would hear me. So again, I think I rushed through this methodology here. And if you're interested on how this came about, like, coming up with, flood protected zones and evacuation routes, again, we did a workshop with different kind of stakeholders. We had GIS experts. We also had, the local government themselves in allocating these areas. Because from the expertise, you would give this suggestion, and again, you'd want decision makers to put their ideas into it. So in the technical side of view, we did, terrain analysis, as Janet mentioned, and network analysis, but we incorporate different kind of, I would say, multi-criteria in this, coming out with these routes. So yeah, I think we have the outputs here. So you'd find, so this is just, a showcase, but we have the real, extended map of this, which will be sharing it with the local government next month. So we have those places that are spotted with, evacuation routes. It has a Symbol Plus sign, and those are areas where the government is really interested to, allocate those areas in terms of, when, floods hit those centers, they could provide support, and different kind of interventions in terms of response. And yeah, again, in the routes we had also come up, as I mentioned, we had multi-criteria, how the road is, we have tarmac roads, we have these rough roads, but how accessible are they? And those were the factors that we looked in the technical side of view. Yeah, thank you. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question actually is on the issue. I'm quite interested to understand how you were able to come up with what we call flood zone, and also some to say that this is not a flood zone. I saw in the previous slide, there was a mention that you can't, I think some interviews people, some sort of, we were talking to people about their flood experiences. And we also understand very well that talking to people about use doing planning planning, it is actually dependent on the member of the question that you're asking. Sometimes people can the respondent can be biased, like maybe they have the expectation that maybe you want to bring something to say.
Okay.
Information.
Eric, just a moment before there's a question, so he hasn't finished. Just a moment.
Yeah, like I
can give him
even
the
got
next
a
one.
nice perspective from, you know, when he repeated the second time. So how we come about, I think it was on the data and how we use
Just a minute, Eric.
Okay.
Eric, just a moment. You can finish your question.
But the mind is not working.
No, switch it on.
Yeah. So
Okay, it's already done.
yeah. So the last part of the question, which I'll just give context to my question.
Okay.
Questions about experiences. There's a chance of bias. For example, if maybe I know for sure that after the team that is asking me questions that maybe there will be distribution of food or other things, people can say that my home was also affected. So I think you know how you took into account the issue of that issue where people can influence the outcome of your plan. So that's number one. Number two, I was also interested to learn from you, like where you like did you use like you have seen that people have been using synthetic aperture radar to map flood water. Like in any way did you do that in your project? Map like to define the flood zone based on the past floods, like looking at the maybe synthetic aperture radar. Those are my two questions.
Okay, I'll answer the first one
Thank you.
and Eric will take the next one, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks.
will you be able to answer both of the? Okay, now
I would
just continue.
I would try, but you go first, then I will like come up with. Thanks.
Okay, for the first question, for the people to influence our flood zones and other stuffs, we always work with these executive officers from the works that usually have knowledge about the particular area, and we use chairmen and to work with them in the streets. When we meet a person maybe who says like there is a flood in this area, and why there is no flood, that particular person will tell us like this area is not flooded at all. So some people, we face the challenge that someone is telling you, I'm not experiencing flood in my area, while it's the most flooded area at that time. So like, they have been helping us to make sure we get correct data. Yes, if you can continue for the next one.
Yeah, I would just like to add again on that, first perspective. Again, I would mention like, local government have been very helpful in terms of, making sure this data is, good enough to come up with at least a model. And when I say a model, it means like, what we have done, there's, output in terms of how accurate are we, and, coming up with this like decisions on, allocating these areas. But something that I noted again, I didn't, incorporate, flood extent that was done by the GIS experts in this slide, and I will totally agree, because I would agree on the confusion that you have in terms of, how we came about, using this data. So one of the data that we used, again, flood experience data that you see on the map. Then we also incorporated different kind of techniques, GIS techniques. And again, we did modeling on the river that passes, through the city. We saw how flood extended to go, and adding to, your second questions, like have we, used the data like, years ago, like, to also help out in this analysis? That would be a big yes. We did that with the GIS experts. And I would love to, discuss more and share the insightful ways that we actually undertaken until we came out with, the map that we'll be sharing with the local government. It was more technical, and I, thought probably we'd have a great, a bigger discussion in that. So thank you so much. Maybe if there's any other questions.
Yes. Maybe we can take the last one. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, two more questions then me. Yeah.
Sorry, I think you're breaking.
I like areas of flood and areas of no flows. To come about with the map, did you have to monitor the rainfall in areas to know the amount of rain that falls? Yes. Did you have to monitor in addition to the jurisdiction area? Did you have to monitor the rainfall, I don't know, nationwide or in the target community to know the amount of rainfall that falls over a certain period of time? And also, I saw that one of the did you map this out, and how did this if you did, how did you use them to help you find the best evacuation route or find the risk zones? So how exactly did you use the data of the dump sites? And lastly, the next question, which is somewhat related to the previous one, is can your data, all of what you have, be used to prevent it's not only favor evacuation, but then prevent it to be more proactive? Thank you.
Okay, I think you were breaking at some point, but I think can someone close to the mic, give it in a summary? Couldn't hear you correctly.
Okay, he said that he was asking, from the previous slide, you presented about one of the drivers of flooding in particular zones is dump sites, or I can say improper waste management in a particular area. How does that help you guys to come up with flooding map zones, and how it is helping you to make sure get more accurate data, if I'm right? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. So yeah, as GOT, we did a couple of projects and focusing in flood issues. And this presented one, in that took place at Ifakara Town Council. We did a little to incorporate, solid waste. But in case of Morogoro Municipal, it's where we focused more on solid waste data collection and model how those influence in, drainage bottlenecks. So you'd find, have solid waste, and when it rains, they cause the drains to block. Sorry, apologies. Again, so I would mention we have a couple of projects, but in this specific one in mapping flood protected zones in Ifakara especially, we were focused on, the river itself and their influence to, flooding to the near people who are the buffer zones of the river and, the communities that are affected, by the overflow. Because again, it's not the main cause of it, as I mentioned, the last tail line, the river is crossing near the in between the council, and when it's flooded. So areas that we focused much was the river depth and the river overflow, in terms of weather data that we acquired from the weather station in that area. So I would say, solid waste, I actually understand solid waste has much contribution in terms of flooding. And in our focus area as Ifakara Town Council, we didn't focus more on that because it wasn't that bigger issue in that area. And that was a feedback from the local government as we are preparing to conduct the project. The second one, the second one was sorry.
I think we're about to take the last question. Yeah, you can go ahead, sir.
Is Michael from FAO Somali. My question was is actually a comment to comment your work, and also to ask if OSM team can be able to, for example, leverage such kind of data set and put on the platform, so that we are looking at how communities are utilizing the disaster data set. Because for this good presentation, you're talking about getting the risk zone and then sharing with the government for intervention. But you realize that government cannot answer all community problems. Some are community-led. So I think if we find a way of letting community consume this data and taking decision by themselves, because it's a disaster. If it's flooding, someone will not wait for government to give them direction to move to a safer place. So if they have this information, it will be very, very useful. So I will maybe speak to maybe a recommendation to the OSM to see if they can include this, because they have already included the network analysis. I don't know if you are aware of that, using the plugin in Quantum JS called Open Routing Service, ORS. You can actually be able to utilize OSM data routes data set to know which one is the shortest route in terms of driving, walking, and it can also it can give you that. So if they add the disaster part of these areas like what you have done in your project, it will be awesome in terms of community utilizing that. But it's a good project indeed.
Thank you so much. I think that was a good point there, and thank you for the recommendation. And I would like to also share our project that we did. I mentioned on solid waste in Morogoro Municipal, and we did use open route services. And I think the project was mainly to come up with better routes when waste transportation or waste collection in the municipal, and come with them in designing better routes in order to manage waste in terms of transport and also disposal. So yeah, that would really make sense as well at these areas, flood protected areas. And yeah, and when you mentioned like we need to put this data to the community, that is a big yes for us. And as I shared on the results, like we are trying to come up with a web map that has the data itself, but we have done some specific analysis specific for the project, where communities as well could interact with it, and also understanding that we have communities that don't have internet or mobile smartphones, especially in the local or rural communities. We are trying also to, like I mentioned, we are sharing the base map, like the output with the local government at first, but we have different kind of disseminations throughout the community. Yeah, so we have some groups sharing, so we let some CSOs or NGOs come to our office, and we share more about the results of the project as well. So thank you so much for that wonderful comment.
Thank you so much, Eric and Janet, for that wonderful presentation. At this point, we'll have to end the session. Thank you, everyone, for attending the session, and see you in the main auditorium. Thank you.